Afternoon, everyone. Ayan, no? Since he would be having asynchronous learning today, and according to Dean, we are required to record the session so that at least you would be able to watch and understand based on the discussion by your professors. So allow me now to start by simply saying I have received some of your submitted reflection paper and some of you the final title of their research proposal. No? So all you have to do is to start doing your research paper so that at least you would be able to finish it this semester. And in order for you to avoid cramming, okay, particularly in the submission of your requirements. Okay, it is very important for you to watch the recorded session for today because towards the end, I would be asking you to do something. That would be your assignment and it will be submitted next week. Or if you wouldn't be able to finish, then you will do it next Saturday. Anyway, directions will be provided. So don't forget, no? Apart from this, you are also tasked to watch this because it will be included in your recall test next week. So we are done with the experimental research under quantitative research. So we'll proceed with qualitative research. So whenever I discuss, I have to proceed with quantitative research and then qualitative research, then go back to quantitative research. Or if there is a need based on the submitted titles, we'll go back to qualitative research. So after the activities that will be provided. So don't forget what's up to the last because towards the middle siguro I would still be giving you instructions para walang kawala. So you would be watching the recorded session. Yan. So qualitative research, we would be focusing on phenomenological research this time. So what do we mean when we say phenomenology? What is the focus whenever we have phenomenological research? Okay, we are actually talking about the people's perception. So we are going to study their experiences, their perception of the phenomenon or the world. And then there are multiple ways of interpreting the same experience. But we would also be discussing how to interpret the data gathered from the transcript of interview considering phenomenological research. So comparing it with narrative study, where it reports the life of single individual, for phenomenological research or study, it describes the meaning of several individuals of their lived experiences. So that means we are focusing on the experiences of several individuals, okay? Common experiences considering the same phenomenon. So that at least we could be able to generalize the data that we would be able to gather from the informants. Okay? So the study of the lived experiences of persons. Ayan. And of course, the development of interpretations of the essence of these experiences. So very important is of course the interpretations, but of course at the start we should not be interpreting because we are describing the experiences of the informants. If you interpret, then bias will be included in the interpretation of your data. And it's very dangerous because you might be interpreting the experiences of the informants based on your experience and not anymore the experience of the participants. So please be very careful when we analyze the data gathered from the transcript of interview. So therefore, to gather data in phenomenological research, all you need to do is to conduct an in-depth interview. When we talk of in-depth interview, it should be 30 to an hour of interview. All you need to do is to take note. Recording is possible also for phenomenological research. So in phenomenological research, again, as I have mentioned, the focus is more on describing the lived experiences of the informants rather than the interpretation. Because if you interpret their experiences, then it will not be anymore their experience, but instead it would be your interpretation. Okay? So the interpretation would be towards the last part of the analysis of the data gathered from the transcript of interview. So don't worry, I'll be discussing this when I discuss coding analysis. Okay, again, coding analysis. Yan. So the purpose of the phenomenological research is to illuminate the specific, to identify phenomena or phenomenon through how they are perceived by the actors in a situation, or how they are perceived by the informants, the situations where they are in, the phenomenon that they are encountering. How do the informants perceive that particular situation or that phenomenon? So in order for you to gather the data or the deep information and perception, all you need to do is to use the following qualitative methods, such as interviews, discussions, participant observations, representing it from the perspective of the research participants. Okay, interview is the most important one. If there is a focus group discussion, particularly if you are having triangulation in qualitative research, then it would be better. But in this time of pandemic, I don't think focus group discussion is possible. Maybe it's possible because of the limited number of participants or informants, but scheduling is very important. There is a possibility that they are not available, particularly in their place. No, maybe there is a lockdown or what. So interview, it could be done online. You would be able to, you are allowed to conduct online considering the situation in this time of pandemic. Observation is also possible if they are going to allow you, the informants are going to allow you to observe, for example, their experiences. Okay? But it should be represented from their perspective and not your perception of what is happening when you are observing. So remember, always now it should be from the perspective of the participants or the informants, no? From their experiences and not your experience. So when we are talking about pure phenomenological research, it seeks essentially to describe rather than explain. So description always. And to start from perspective, free from hypotheses. So therefore, there will be no hypothesis or hypothesis whenever you do qualitative research, particularly phenomenological research. Okay, because we are focusing on the description or how to describe the experiences of the participants. It's actually particularly effective at bringing to the fore the experiences and perceptions of individuals from their own perspectives and not the perspective of the researcher, and therefore challenging structural or normative assumptions. In describing the experiences of the participants, all you need to do is to focus on the transcript of the interview, and then after that you represent those, no, using coding analysis into words, and then after that you define the words, no, the codes. But anyway, I will be discussing coding analysis so that at least you would be able to understand what I am talking about. But just focus on the two things, no, the perception of the participants when we talk of phenomenological research, and of course the description of their experiences. Okay, you have to describe their experiences. So at the beginning, remember always to explain to them the confidentiality, and you have to assure the informants that the information that you would be able to gather will not be misused. So this is also an ethical consideration. If there will be, for example, reports, explain that to the participants, to the informant, where it will go, okay, particularly the result or the transcript of the interview and how it will be used. so that at least you would be able to consider confidentiality of the data that you were able to gather. Then go around the room and get each person to answer your first question to draw everyone in, particularly when you are having a focus group discussion. Keep praising and thanking people for their contribution. Make them feel their contribution is welcome and worthwhile. So when you do focus group discussion, these are the things that will be done. Okay. Or if, for example, you are conducting an interview individually, the first bullet is very important. So that at least you would be able to make sure to tell them that it will be kept confidential or the things that you would be able to gather. What is the method that you would be using in order for you to identify the participants in your phenomenological research? First is purposive sampling because it should be homogeneous sample. That means you should be able to get informants or participants with the same experiences. So very crucial, no? The same experiences. Otherwise, you are not doing phenomenological research. Kasi you would not be able to generalize your research if you have heterogeneous participants. So this is now the difference between qualitative and quantitative, particularly phenomenological research. Now, for phenomenological research, the experiences of the participants should be common, homogeneous. And there is a possibility that you wouldn't be able to identify the next participant or informants that you would be interviewing. If that would be the case, you will do snowballing technique in order for you to identify the next participant. How are we going to do that? First, you have to identify the first informant or the first participant with the same experience. For example, if we are talking about the lived experiences of wives wherein their husbands are working abroad, or wives of seamen na lang, wives of seamen. If, for example, you were able to identify first participant, a wife of a seaman, and then that wife of seaman can identify the next informants or participants because, of course, no, they know wives of seamen. So that's another possibility if you cannot identify informants for the particular topic that you have identified. With my example, I'm talking about the lived experiences of wives of seamen. Yan. So research question, it involved issues and experiences of considerable significance to the participants. All you have to do is to ask them to narrate their experiences since they have, for example, they are wives of seamen. No? All you have to do is to ask them their experiences, their challenges, and eventually how they cope with their challenges or their experiences. In that way, the readers of your research, you would be able to help them cope with the challenges that they would be encountering. If, for example, they are wives of seamen. So that would be your contribution to the field. That's why you are researching in order for you to contribute. Data collection, semi-structured one-on-one interview. Okay, this is better than having focus group discussion so that at least there is ease or rapport in giving their experiences or telling their experiences to you when you conduct the interview. Yan. Example, research questions from project exploring the experiences of women in rehabilitation. So how do the participants describe their experiences of addiction and recovery? Okay. In what context do their experience occur? So these are some of the questions that you should be asking. Okay, the research questions, and then eventually you would be able to answer these questions by simply conducting an interview. Because of course the participants or the informants would be telling you their experiences. Right? So again, no, at this part, your actually your assignment. So hopefully you are still watching, and then you should be able to hear this. No, I would be presenting to you later on your assignment, a group work, group work. So don't forget, no, you would be having your group work next Saturday. All you have to do is to divide your yourselves now into group of group of five members in each group. Okay. There is a possibility that one group will be more than five, but make sure that five members in each group should be done. Yan. I'm doing this in order for you to watch the video presentation. Sayang naman yung pag-record ko. Diba? Alright, check. Continue. Okay, so these are some of the additional examples of questions whenever you have the lived experiences or phenomenological research. So you are talking about, for example, what are the experiences of regular teachers in implementing exclusive education? So that means they are regular teachers, but they are teaching, for example, students with special need. So these are some of the questions. This is actually the questions being asked by my advisee in her research. No, graduate na yon ng masteral dyan sa FEU Roosevelt. How do regular teachers feel about teaching students with ADHD in the regular classroom? So that means the students with special needs are in a regular classroom and they are having a regular teacher. So this is a phenomenological research in nature because of the nature of the phenomenon. And then there are few only who are experiencing this. And the number three, how do regular teachers cope with the effects of the phenomenon? So don't worry, I'll be providing you with an example of experimental research, and then of course example of phenomenological research. Okay, in order for you to know more about these types of research. Then additional examples, no? How do you describe your experiences in online teaching? In what context do your experience occur? How do you understand and make sense of your experience? And how are individual differences reflected in your experiences? Okay. And then these are some of the research questions for your paper. What are your experiences in implementing online teaching? How do you feel about teaching students in an online environment? And how do you cope with the effects of the phenomenon? Coping mechanism is very important in phenomenological research because in this way, you would be able to solve the challenges, no, experienced by your informants, okay, by simply generating their common coping mechanisms. And in that way also, you would be helping the readers of your research having the same experience with your informants. So coping mechanism is very important. So the problem for many researchers with phenomenological research is it generates a large quantity of interview notes, tape recordings, and it would be very difficult actually to organize. But when I discuss with you coding analysis or constant comparison method and of course phenomenological research, how to analyze data gathered from phenomenological research, then you would be able to understand what I am talking about. This time, we just be focusing on the nature of phenomenological research, and that it is focused on the lived experiences of your informants. Okay. So I have to review again, lived experiences and perceptions of your performance. The sampling technique is, of course, it could be snowballing, but purposive sampling technique so that at least you would be able to gather informants homogeneously. And then to gather the data, you need to conduct an interview. All right. So how do we analyze? Okay, it's very necessary, but messy also, very difficult, as data doesn't tend to fall into neat categories, and there can be many ways. So categories, I would be explaining that when we discuss thematic analysis. All right. So how do we analyze and interpret a data? For ways, could be transcript-based, tape-based, note-based, memory-based. It's up to you whether you will record or will take note the transcript of or the interview process. Okay, and then it could be content analysis. Consider the words and then analyze the words being mentioned by the participants. Could be the context of what they are telling you, and then you have to consider as well the internal consistency of what they are telling you, particularly informants, when you are comparing and looking for patterns and similarities of what they are saying. So don't forget the internal consistency of their experiences. Then the intensity of the comments and how they give you the experiences or share with you the experiences. Okay? Are they sad? Are they happy? Like that. So facial expression should also be considered when you are conducting an interview, right? And then ground rules, only one person speaks at a time. Ito, ground rules to whenever you have focus group discussion. But this is another option. But if you are doing your phenomenological in this time of pandemic, and I think you don't need to do focus group discussion. But if you do, if you want to do focus group discussion in order for you to triangulate the data, validate the data that you have gathered from one informant to another, all you need to do is to consider these ground rules. Only one person speaks at a time. Give everyone an equal chance to participate in the discussion. So all you need to do is to facilitate and make sure that an equal chance will be provided to the informants in sharing their experiences. Then of course, the people or the informants should respect the opinions of other informants. You as researcher also should respect the opinion of the informants. Don't put down or criticize other comments. All you need to do is to listen. The other informants also need to listen to the other informant. Okay? And then respect the privacy of others in the group by not repeating what is discussed outside the focus group discussion. So wala dapat lalabas because you are considering the confidentiality of the discussion. Right? First method, the first method that you really need to do when you want to analyze the data that you have gathered is to read through and get feel of what is being said or mentioned by the participants and identify keywords or themes. That the theme should be the most repeated words by the participants, and then it should be in vivo. That means you have to use the word of the participants in order for you to avoid bias, right? Anyway, I will be discussing this part in thematic analysis. So these points from all the text for a small scale project and then can be aggregated to organize with a mind map or set of post-it notes. So it's very important to use post-it note or use Excel in order for you to organize the words or the themes, the sub-themes in analyzing the data that you have gathered. Okay? So in a small scale project, looking across themes between participants is likely to be easy to do with physical documents. But an alternative useful where there are larger number of participants is to enter the data into a database or Excel file na nga lang kagaya ng sinabi ko a while ago. If there are keywords, you type them. And then how do you describe the keywords based on the transcript of interview? How did the informants explain that particular word or particular theme or category based on his or her experiences? The second method is, of course, a small scale looking across teams between participants. Wait. This enables data entered under different headings to be just supposed and compared, particularly useful to identify a relationship between different teams and factors. The second method is actually this not the second method because that's the first method. The second method is actually taking notes of the teams and then trying to create a map so that at least you would be able to identify the key themes, the general themes, and then the sub themes, and then the codes, the explanation. So I would be discussing this when we discuss coding analysis, particularly thematic analysis. Because in phenomenological research, in order for you to analyze the transcript of data, you would be using thematic analysis. Yan. So this is one example of a title. As you can see, a phenomenological study into how students experience and understand the university presidency. Another, a phenomenal study of the experiences of helping professionals with learning disabilities. If you are going to revise this title, all you need to do is to use lived experiences. No? The lived experiences of helping professionals with learning disabilities. Because you are already talking about experiences, then you are stating phenomenological study. Because all phenomenological study are talk about all phenomenological studies talk about the lived experiences of the participants. Yan. So here is another example. All you need to do is to read. Again, no, it's redundant. A phenomenological study of the lived experiences. All you have to do is to remove phenomenological study of the. Then you start with siguro the lived experiences of adult caregiving daughters and their elderly mothers. Yan. Again, here is the correct title, The Lived Experiences of Being a Sole Mother in Taiwan. Okay, assignment. Okay, your output for today. Yan, dapat talaga panoorin nyo tong recorded session. Output for today, write 5 titles ng phenomenological research. 5 titles of phenomenological research. Yan yung assignment nyo ngayon. This activity will be done next week. I think this is activity 4 already. Okay, all you have to do is to read. This is an article will be provided to you, a research. The title of the research is a comparison of alternatively and traditionally prepared teachers. This will be done next week. Okay. So next week, according to Dean, we will record 15 seconds na video lang. So after that, you will do this collaboratively na lang. Okay, these are the questions that you would be answering next week, Saturday. So I'll be showing this to you again. All right. Hypothesis. You can pause naman when you want to read the questions. So after graduation, after your master's degree, you should be able to analyze and evaluate research. And in analyzing and evaluating research, these are some of the questions that you should be asking yourself. Yan po. Yan na yun. Number 7 question. And then up to 8 question. Yan. This will be done next Saturday. Hindi yan yung assignment nyo today. Your assignment for today is, ayun, yung sinabi ko kanina, hindi ko ulitin para balikan ninyo if you were not able to hear it. Alright, so that's all for today, and thank you. Hopefully, mapanood nyo lahat and you would be able to do your assignments. Alright, thank you and God bless you all.